It is Tuesday, August 6th, day 46 of my modified 90-day novel writing challenge. I did not wake up at 5 a.m. this morning because my sinuses have not been doing so hot. My husband and I have a bit of a sinus thing going on, which is kind of unfortunate and untimely because we are traveling this weekend for a work conference. My plan is to try and knock out even about 50 words, and then lay low, drink some tea, and try and recover.
My second cup of green tea.
Done.
It is 11 o'clock, and I'm at 454 words.
I've been writing for about an hour, and that was a pretty surprising turnout. I'm going to end my session here.
My library haul.
I just got back from the library and I picked up some books. I got Goethe's Faust. This has been on my TBR for a really long time and I finally want to dig into it. I'm in the mood for it, so I'm excited to read it. I've got The Divine Comedy. This has been on my TBR list for a while, and in the spirit of writing epically, I wanted to get into this for some inspiration. I was warned that it is a little bit depressing, so I may not take this with me on my trip. And then from random browsing, I found this lovely faux leather, I think, book. It is a collection of Plato, Epictetus, I never know how to say that. Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. So some philosophy. And this also caught my eye. Existentialists and Mystics, and I just flipped through and her thoughts are really interesting. These are essays, I believe. Yes, these are a collection of essays and short form compositions. Yeah. These are due on the 3rd. So I hope I can either finish them or rule them out from my reading pile. When I am really into a book, I can finish something this long in one setting. I actually read The Brothers Karamazov in one setting. So my aim every time I go on the hunt or search for books is to find that book that I can just fully immerse myself into and read cover to cover. I already did a video on the books I'm currently reading, and truthfully, I could finish those in a few days. A lot of them are more contemplative, so they are just works that I am reading slower and in bits and pieces, like Pessoa and the anthology of poems. Other big books I read in one sitting. I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I read that in one sitting. And it wasn't my favorite work by her. I actually prefer Piranesi so much more, but I read that in one sitting because it was interesting and it was something that was on my list to read. I've read Swan's Way, the first volume in, I don't know how many volumes total, of In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust. I read that book in one sitting. It was a translation by Lydia, I forget what her last name is, but that was an amazing translation, and I read that in one go. I also read Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood. Love that book, and I read that one in one go. And I love those experiences where I can get so into a book that I read it cover to cover, and that's always what I'm really looking for. Big books I will not be reading in one session. War and Peace, I am definitely breaking that up into pieces. I might attempt Crime and Punishment in one go, but we'll see. I've got a copy of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey coming in the mail. It is a combined volume, and I will not be reading that in one go. That's something I think I want to read slower and digest a bit more methodically than reading it in a binge. Since I'm done with my writing today, I'm going to try to get into these books and see which one I want to take on my travels this weekend. My husband and I will be in Florida for 5 days, so we'll see which book I end up taking along for the journey. I'm reading Goethe's Faust. You do not feel how bad it is to please the rabble, how artists spurn such craft and cheap applause. The manner of the hacks that dabble has furnished you, I see, with laws. So far I'm getting the gist of the argument being formed by the three characters at the beginning, the director, the poet, and the clown, or the jester. It seems to me that the director presents like the business perspective of wanting to please the crowd for profit, and then the poet is representing the artist's perspective, and the clown is the performer's perspective. I like what the director says: to satisfy men is a chore. What seizes you, an ecstasy or pain? To me, that sounds like he's asking the poet, do you want to be happy, or do you want to be in suffering trying to please the crowd when really they just need to be entertained? I find this actually quite aligned with my recent musings, where I've thought about writing for entertainment and writing for my soul, and ultimately I am more the poet than I am the practical, even though I have a very big practical aspect to my thinking. Ultimately, I can't follow that. I have to follow my soul. Okay, I think the clown right now in the prelude is playing the whisper in the ear, agreeing with the poet. And I wouldn't say to agree, but he understands the poet, and so he speaks to him in the understanding. I think this is a very archetypal portrayal of the clown, who can pull sway from both sides. Typically you see the clown as somebody, as a figure who is manipulative and deceptive. I love what he says to the poet: and we respect you when you play your part. Age does not make us childish, as we're told. It merely finds we are still young at heart. Okay, I just finished the prelude, and it's good. I've been reading a collection of letters between Goethe and his friend. I can't remember his name at the top of my head. My brain is not computing right now. So I started reading that just to get a behind the scenes understanding of Goethe's mind, and I really do like his philosophy and thinking. It's interesting. He makes really good points. So Faust has been up there on my list to read because it's, it's a really well-known work. And first chapter in, there's so much to think about. I definitely think I'm going to reread this again and slower and actually study this book. Okay, so the impression I'm getting now with the prelude and the prologue, you kind of get the behind the scenes of the stage, and then you have now the behind the scenes, the invisible in the heavenly realm. We're in the back corridors of consciousness, is what I'm beginning to perceive as I read this. Mephistopheles. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Mephistopheles? Mephisto. I like to see the old man now and then and try to be not too uncivil. It's charming in a noble squire when he speaks humanely with the very devil. That's funny. So Mephisto is himself the devil. We are now on to the first part of the tragedy. We're at the part of Faust, and he is contemplating. All weaves of self into the whole, each living in the other's soul. Wagner's lines are interesting. Forgive, I hear your declamation. Surely you read a Grecian tragedy. I'd profit from some work in this vocation. These days it can be used effectively. I have been told 3 times at least that a comedian could instruct a priest. This is Faust in his head. What is not used is but a load to bear, but if today creates it, we can use and bless it. So my gist of the first part of the tragedy, I had to go and reread some bits, but it seems like Faust is having an existential crisis where he's a smart man, he is a teacher, master of arts, and a doctor, and yet despite science and art, he feels that he knows nothing. But he also feels like he's smarter than the majority, and so it seems he is determined to figure something out. But it kind of looks like he's like mixing and matching all these like potions to access an altered state of consciousness, to connect with some divine entities and close up that hole in his knowledge. So lots of woo in this. I love woo. Wagner, Faust's companion, maybe his servant, I'm not really sure. He says, I, too, have spells of eccentricity, but such unrest has never come to me. One soon grows sick of forest, field, and brook, and I shall never envy birds their wings. Far greater are the joys the spirit brings, from page to page, from book to book. Thus winter nights grow fair and warm the soul. Yes, blissful life suffuses every limb. And when one opens up an ancient parchment scroll, the very heavens will descend on him. It seems that Faust is very, very, very dissatisfied with something in his soul. He is a well-to-do man. People revere him and think of him like a demigod for healing them of their illnesses, sparing them from death, yet he is in this state of discontentment about what exactly, I'm not sure. It seems like it's just a pervasive, vague brooding. Haven't figured it out yet. Oh, okay, so it says it here. Faust in response to Wagner, you are aware of only one unrest. I think he means like the physical. Oh, never learn to know the other, the existential or the spiritual unrest. 2 souls, alas, are dwelling in my breast, and one is striving to forsake its brother. So he's definitely going through some conflict. Onto the world in grossly loving zest, with clinging tendrils one adheres, the other rises forcibly in quest of rarefied ancestral spheres. If there be spirits in the air that hold their sway between the earth and sky, descend out of the golden vapors there and sweep me into iridescent life. Oh, came a magic cloak into my hands to carry me to distant lands. I should not trade it for the choicest gown, nor for the cloak and garments of the crown. So it seems like he's just bored with real life and he is yearning for the beyond. Before I get further, I can see how that could lead to a very, very, very serious tragedy, because that kind of crisis tends to tear people apart. The inability to reconcile life on earth with the metaphysical, the unknown. We're talking about an omen now. Faust has seen a black dog, and that's so interesting because I've been reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and obviously the black dog or Sirius is a symbol, an ominous symbol. So that's really interesting. And Faust is really taking this omen to heart, and Wagner is like, that's just a dog. All I see is a poodle. And for the rest of what you're talking about, Faust, he's like, I think you need to check your eyes. He says it this way though. I see the poodle, as I said already. As for the rest, your eyesight seems to fail. Okay, so I just finished page 149. This version has both the German and the English, so one side is German and the other side is in English. So it is a really, I would say, quick read. That said, I am gonna go back later and reread and actually carefully study it. But my prediction is that Faust is gonna get really unhinged, and hence this is why it's a tragedy. I don't know, we'll find out. Yep, Faust is discontent, he says. Even now, however, though I tried my best, contentment flows no longer through my breast. Why does the river rust so soon and dry up and leave us to languish in the sand? I think the spirits are taking bets on Faust becoming unhinged. Faust has conjured a spell and Mephistopheles has been summoned. And this scene reminds me of the, oh my goodness, my brain, hold on. Master and Margarita. That was also another DNF for me because I just couldn't get into the whole like crazy cat devil character popping up here and there, and just like the overall chaoticness of that book. But I'm getting that vibe from the scene where Mephisto appears before Faust. Faust is losing his shit. When night descends at last, I shall recline, but anxiously upon my bed. Though all is still, no rest is mine, as dreams enmesh my mind in dread. The God that dwells within my heart can stir my depths I cannot hide, rules all my powers with relentless art, but cannot move the world outside. And thus existence is for me a weight, death is desirable, and life I hate. I'm gonna pause here, make myself a rice bowl or something, and either I'm gonna finish this today or dabble in another book. I'm actually really enjoying Faust a lot. We got some rice, butter, soy sauce, fresh cucumber, and kimchi. Time for some candy. I'm about halfway through Faust. What I'm gathering so far is that Faust goes along on an adventure with Mephistopheles, and then now he is forest bathing, just hanging out in nature, and he's coming to his senses, and Mephistopheles is pissed because he's like, after all I did for you, you're just gonna be a hermit in the woods. If I am remembering correctly, I believe Goethe's philosophy is that nature is a superior force than science or anything man-made or man-endeavored. So at other times you have the devil's heirs. In all the world there's nothing more absurd than is a devil who despairs. Mephistopheles is talking back to Faust, being like, you're being really ridiculous right now, sitting on that moss. He's like, I gave you the girl of your dreams, and now she thinks you've left her. Go to her and console her. What are you doing? What a journey Faust is. I'm now officially at the second part of the tragedy, and I'm close to the end. A lot has happened. I'm at the part where Mephistopheles is cheated by the angels. I have a few more pages left. I have finished Goethe's Faust. It was good. I would definitely reread it again. I don't like to read the introductions before I get into a work because I like to dive into it first and then get the context from commentators and critics after the fact. So I will read that later though, but I really enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna dive into this one next.